the most astounding detail about what happens when consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, especially with an emphasis on nurturing internal attachments, isn't that amazing? It's just the coolest thing ever. Like, what? This is where stuff gets so fascinating. Oh my god, so fascinating. It's so mind-blowing. It's so incredible. All of that is happening unconsciously beyond awareness without even trying. It's amazing. Hello, brave, beautiful, beloved soul friends. Welcome back to the Known documentary series. I'm here with Kristin Windsor, consciousness consultant, and she is sharing some brand new discoveries encountered during her Implicit Revelations Case Study. Thank you so much for being here, Kristin Windsor. It is an honor to connect with you. It is such an honor to be here today. The Implicit Revelations Case Study is the journey and the adventure of a lifetime. There's truly nothing I love more than talking about understanding and healing unconscious body minds. It lights me up like nobody's business. So thank you so much for creating this space to continue this never-ending interview. And thank you for everyone taking time to tune in and connect. I'm really looking forward to sharing these things because they are revolutionarily awe-striking, and the journey of discovering them along with the discoveries and the applications of them themselves have completely changed my life for the better, and I'm really excited to share with you. Welcome, beloved soul friends, to a brand new adventure into the Known documentary series and Implicit Revelations Case Study created by yours truly, Kristin Windsor, consciousness consultant. I invite you to play background music while listening to and watching the following video. Choose some relaxing tunes and play them quietly in the background to amplify your healing journey experience. Have an incredible adventure diving deep into understanding and healing unconscious body minds to liberate self-essence and transform personal experience from the inside out. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being you. My 29th thesis statement here in my Implicit Revelations case study is that when consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, the process of healing internal attachments indirectly reconstructs the entire neurobiological social engagement system, which is a way to understand the unconscious body-mind. There are infinite perspectives, of course, but I understand the unconscious body-mind through the lens of the neurobiological social engagement system, which basically explains the neuroscience of psychology. And you can discover deeper insights on these topics and other theses, analyses in my Implicit Revelations case study, including thesis number 4. Long story short, the neurobiological social engagement system, which is a concept that stems from the polyvagal theory, explains the organization of neural wiring that impacts navigation and regulation unfolding beyond awareness, where the structures of brain-body wiring are constantly impacting uniquely individualized experiences of consciousness for every miraculous individual on the planet. My personal healing journey over the past several years, explored through my Implicit Revelations case study. It's been like the self-healing stuff and the case study. They're always overlapping and complementing and benefiting one another as I continue exploring healing and I continue exploring the case study and allow them to fluidly intertwine in my everyday healing journey through life. My healing journey and my case study has brought me to some unique challenges over the past several years, and you can discover more about that through my known documentary series, including recent ones in this thesis number 29 analysis. 2 years ago, I could not create new conscious explicit memories in relation to a sense of self. I had a complete mind-body disconnect. I was encountering hundreds of unique health challenges, and there were over a dozen individual, independent people or states of consciousness flowing through this brain-body system, including several young children, along my healing journey with adaptable consciousness condition, as suppressed childhood trauma had provoked divergent neurodevelopment of my neurobiological social engagement system, resulting in multiple states of consciousness experiencing life through independent activity of brain-body wiring. 1 year ago, I was starting to experience life through one fluid state of consciousness, yet I could not remember my entire life. Now, I am experiencing life through one fluid state of consciousness where my entire life and all the neural data gathered from it is profoundly integrated. There will still be continued layers and depths that unfold, but compared to where I was, everything's super mega recovered. And I did all of this. I was able to integrate all forms of neural wiring. I was able to recover memories from my entire life. I was able to welcome all of my consciousness home without touching any memory data, without working with any neural wiring. All of the neural wiring was completely transformed. And it happened by applying the idea of my 29th thesis, where consciousness teaches the brain and body to socially engage with itself, and in the process of healing internal attachments, indirectly, automatically, beyond awareness, without doing it intentionally or even diving into it, all the neural wiring from every year of life in relation to all the roles in the neurobiological social engagement system with conscious and unconscious or explicit and implicit memories and all of the associated regulatory protocols encountered complete, total, expansive, profound, infinite transformation. Without working with any of the regulatory protocols in the brain or body, without working with any of the memory data, without working with any past experiences, without working with any specific neural wiring, all of it was transformed by guiding consciousness to teach the brain and body to socially engage with its own self. And in the process, along with other elements of the healing journey, nurture internal attachments. Before I explain some ways to apply this concept in the everyday healing journey, I want to dive deeper into some of the benefits that unfold. In the last part of this video series, I shared 3 profound benefits that I personally encountered. I would like to share more about the benefits that can happen overall in general for anybody, because I know not everybody's on a healing journey like mine, although some of you are, and that's super cool too, so hi! During this portion of the interview, I would like to share more about the benefits of applying thesis number 29, What actually happens when consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with its own self? Well, that is what is obviously happening on the surface through specific styles of practices, which I'll share in the next part of this video series. What is consciously known about is that consciousness is teaching the brain and the body to socially engage with its own self with an emphasis on nurturing internal attachments. But beyond awareness, there's a lot more happening. So that's what I'm going to explore here in this discussion. Within the unconscious body-mind, all the different structures are organized in relation with the neurobiological social engagement system, referencing my own Implicit Revelations case study here. All the neural data has two components, which are really important to understand. The first detail about neural wiring is that neural data has specific styles of content. It's the specific information housed in the neural data and the pathways that connect all these pieces of information. Experience, in relation with attachment well-being, sculpts specific styles of neural content. The second detail is neural connectivity. Neural content and neural connectivity. Neural connectivity is just how the different pieces of information talk to each other, regardless of what the specific pieces of information are. So there's the specific details about what's inside the data, the content, and that comes from experience specifically. It's how experience becomes stored as information. And then there's neural connectivity, which is how all the pieces of data are talking to each other, regardless of what they're saying. Neural content and neural connectivity. These practices, where consciousness is teaching the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, influence both neural content and neural connectivity, without directly working with any memory data. And so I was able to specifically transform past experiences without looking at the experiences, because the process of guiding the brain and the body to socially engage with itself through the power of my consciousness infused neural data with an upliftment of information. In every single moment, neural content is activated unconsciously to provide navigation. So for example, if you look in a mirror and you can recognize yourself, that is influenced by the activation of neural data, because you've seen yourself before, and that neural wiring is like, oh, check it out, we've got all this information about what you look like. Yep, that's you. And so when you look in a mirror, is one of infinite examples, of course, if you are like, oh, I understand that that's me, that experience is at least partially influenced by the activation of implicit procedural memory data unfolding beyond awareness. When you look in a mirror, you're not like, oh, I remember every single time I've ever looked at myself. And yet, every single time you've ever looked at yourself has sculpted information in the neurobiological social engagement system, or in the unconscious body-mind, and that is being activated beyond awareness to help you recognize yourself in the present moment. So unconscious memories are always providing navigation, and with every activation beyond awareness, you don't know that neural data is being activated, it's just happening. You don't know about it, because 99.08% of inner realities unfold beyond awareness. So pretty much the majority of all humankind doesn't really know what's happening inside of them most of the time, which is crazy to think about. So it's good to expand our awareness. It provides us a lot more power. 99.08% approximately of inner realities unfold beyond awareness. And this references one of my previous thesis statements here in the Implicit Revelations Case Study. So with every activation, neural data is being automatically reconstructed. It's shape-shifting. Every moment of how we move through life, especially with an emphasis on how we're feeling and how we're moving, which directly influences unconscious or implicit memories, which there are a lot more of than conscious explicit memories. But how we're maneuvering everyday life is transforming existing neural wiring beyond awareness, because every nanosecond activates it, and with every activation, it's being reconstructed. And so we have the power to transform
every piece of neural data existing in the unconscious body mind, because it's always being activated. And with every activation, it's already being rewired. And how we maneuver our nows is influencing the past, because it's resculpting neural data in the present, storing that information or information from those past experiences. Pretty cool stuff, right? I think it's so amazing.
So the process of consciousness, teaching the brain and the body to socially engage with itself with an emphasis on nurturing internal attachments, indirectly reconstructs neural content by infusing it with high vibrational experiences in relation with attachment need fulfillment. Wow, that's so fascinating and incredible. So the neural content is affected by the application of your 29 thesis statement. What happens to the neural connectivity? Is that also affected somehow? Yes, fascinatingly enough, the neural connectivity encounters even deeper realms of total transformation through the application of these practices that use the abstract idea of my 29 thesis statement in specific personal everyday applications. Neural connectivity. Oh my God, it's so fascinating. So there's 3 specific things that we can look at when it comes to neural connectivity. The first is the relationship between implicit and explicit memory data. So every experience affects neural wiring in the unconscious body mind. The depths to which neural data is stored it has infinite variables. Some moments will be forgotten because the memory data was overridden, or it wasn't that important, or didn't have that profound of an impact. But every moment of life is somehow affecting neural wiring in the unconscious body mind, just in different ways with infinite variables. But experiences have 2 different elements to them. I mean, there's a lot of different elements, but we can look at it with 2 specifics. The implicit neural wiring and the explicit neural wiring. Explicit autobiographical memories have an understanding in relation with orientation in time and space and linearity, and they have a uniquely individualized sense of self who is within the experience, and they hold details about what was obviously experienced. I was in this place at this time, and this thing happened, and I was a person, or I was a self in the experience, and I'm a self here now, recalling that experience consciously. So that's explicit memories, explicit autobiographical memories. Those are the pieces of neural wiring that we can consciously get to. Like if we want to access a memory, we can go and we can touch that neural data. But even more of the unconscious body mind is comprised of implicit memory data, unconscious neural wiring. Implicit memory data cannot be directly accessed if you try. You can't go in there looking for implicit neural wiring and be like, oh, I found it! I found that piece of information! Look, it's right there! I can recall the implicit detail. It doesn't work that way. They're unconscious memories. And implicit memories have emotions and procedures. Basically, they're the abstract sensations about how the body felt and how the body moved during that experience. For example, were you feeling really angry and you felt really rushed? How the body felt and how the body moved. Or were you feeling super joyful and you were moving at a very slow, gentle pace because you were totally relaxed? How the body felt and how the body moved. So implicit memory data holds the abstract sensations of emotions and procedures, emotional and procedural memory data. Emotions have these very abstract sensations, somatic sensations, emotional sensations, feelings-based sensations. And procedural memories have different types of action patterns. Action patterns have a wide variety of details. I won't get all into that now. But the first of 3 specific details when we can look at in understanding neural connectivity is the relationship between explicit and implicit memory data. And among the infinite variables and features of these relationships of neural data and neural wiring is integrative connectivity between the left and the right brain hemisphere through the corpus callosum. And so, for example, there might be the left brain detail about this thing happened, the fact of it, and then there might be a right brain detail about the feeling of it. And do those pieces of information have connections? So as one of infinite examples, when healing from any type of traumatic stress, one of the many miraculous features of that healing journey is that there are all these abstract sensations that don't have connection with a completed explicit experience. And so there's all this neural data of trauma sensations in the right brain, and the left brain doesn't have information about the fact that those feelings are complete. The experience that created those feelings are complete. So a big part of that healing journey is helping that neural data integrate so that the implicit fragments of sensations from traumatic experiences has connection with an explicit autobiographical experience that helps the self know that those feelings or that experience that created all those terrifying, horrific sensations is now over and complete. And the implicit memory fragments are then no longer experienced independently once that integrative process is achieved. So the first component of understanding neural connectivity is the relationship between explicit and implicit memory data. The conscious autobiographical details of an experience connecting with the implicit emotional and procedural details that of how the experience created neural data in the unconscious body mind. Another example of this is that along her healing journey, Kristin in 2020 was experiencing independent activity of implicit procedural memory data from early childhood while completing the final stages of halted neurodevelopment once all the foundational trauma had been processed from the suppressed childhood trauma that had originally initiated the development of adaptable consciousness condition. And you can find out more about these miraculously unique experiences in my Implicit Revelations Case Study and known documentary series, especially the thesis number 27, I believe, where I explore a wide variety of unique dissociative experiences. In 2020, among the infinitely miraculous and astoundingly unique experiences Kristin encountered on the healing journey, she was reliving action patterns from early childhood, where the brain and the body were guiding consciousness to relive action patterns or procedures about how to move through life and navigate life instinctively, including decision-making tendencies and abilities, based on neural data from ages 7 through 14, basically. Some earlier and some later, but the majority of them were between ages 4 through 16 was the full time span. But it was implicit procedural neural data activating independently in the neurobiological social engagement system from original stages of neurodevelopment without any orientation in relation to the adult that she was. And so that was a very unique experience that revealed how it can manifest, one of infinite potential manifestations, when the implicit and the explicit neural data does not connect. Because during those experiences, Kristin was not remembering the experience at all. She didn't have access to the explicit autobiographical details of childhood. Instead, she was reliving the implicit procedural memory data. That information didn't have connection back then. So the first piece about understanding neural connectivity is the relationship between explicit and implicit memories, the fact and the feeling of the experience, the conscious autobiographical details connecting with the implicit sensational details in relation to emotions and action patterns stored in unconscious memories.
The second piece of information when understanding and exploring neural connectivity and the neurobiological social engagement system, which has all the magical structures of the unconscious body-mind, is understanding the relationship between neural wiring sculpted from every year of life. So every single year adds neural data to the neurobiological social engagement system as experience in relation with attachment well-being is then energetically processed into the brain-body system to impact uniquely individualized experiences of consciousness. And understanding how neural data from every year of life is connecting helps us understand activity in the unconscious body-mind, unfolding beyond awareness, but affecting all of our conscious experiences, consciously and unconsciously. And so how does neural data from ages 2 and 3 connect with neural data in the present moment? How does neural data from ages 4 and 5 connect with neural data from ages 14 and 15? And so the second piece of understanding neural connectivity is how neural data from every year of life is connecting and talking to each other beyond awareness. The third piece of information we can explore when understanding and exploring neural connectivity is exploring the relationship between neural data in every role of the neurobiological social engagement system. So the neurobiological social engagement system has all these different roles in it. There are 16 specific ones that I share in thesis number 4, which brings in information from the polyvagal theory. And then there's a 17th one that I've added that I'll explore more in depth another time. But the 17th role in the neurobiological social engagement system, which I discovered here in the Implicit Revelations Case Study, is self-associations, especially explored through an understanding of self-recognition and self-resonance in relation to the face, voice, and physical body. That's another topic for another time, though. The third piece about understanding neural connectivity is exploring how all the different neural wiring in all the different roles are connected. How does emotional well-being connect with rest and restitution? How does physical well-being connect with rest and restitution? How does parent-child bonding connect with emotional intimacy? And so the third piece about exploring and understanding neural connectivity is the exploration of how neural data connects in the neurobiological social engagement system in relation to every role. So there's explicit and implicit memory data connecting, there's neural wiring from every year of life connecting, and there's neural wiring in each different role of the neurobiological social engagement system connecting. And these three components help us understand neural connectivity, which impacts navigation and regulation in the unconscious body-mind. The most astounding detail about what happens when consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, especially with an emphasis on nurturing internal attachments, is that neural connectivity expands in relation to all three of these components. Explicit and implicit neural data starts talking to each other better. Neural data from every year of life starts talking to each other better. Neural data in relation to every single role of the neurobiological social engagement system starts talking to each other. Neural connectivity expands, transforming the storage of memory data without directly working with any memories. Isn't that amazing? It's just the coolest thing ever. Like, what? When consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, neural connectivity expands in every possible way. Explicit and implicit memory start talking to each other. Neural data from every year of life starts talking to each other, and neural data in relation to every single world, the neurobiological social engagement system starts talking to each other without directly working with any memory data. It's so mind-blowing. It's so incredible. All of that is happening unconsciously beyond awareness without even trying. It's amazing. So, for example, we're going to look at how this is applied based on my Implicit Revelations case study, which is based on my self-healing journey. In relation to the personal application of these concepts, I want to share a little insight, and the journey of this is just so incredible. Like, it was just miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle, and then there were even more miracles after that, so that was pretty cool. So, for example, if a child plays a computer game, okay, so there's a child sitting at a desk of some kind in front of a computer. You got the computer monitor, you got the mouse, you got the keyboard, right? Okay, all right. Child playing a computer game. That experience sculpts neural data. The explicit autobiographical information says, I'm a child, I'm this age, I'm in this location, I'm playing this computer game. But the implicit memory data says, I felt super captivated, excited, and engaged, and felt totally rewarded when I found the shortcuts on Need for Speed, and I got to the next level on this game, and I felt so hooked, and it was so fun to explore this brand new world and figure out how to launch rockets, and it has the emotional sensations. The emotional sensations. I felt this way. The details about why that was felt might be in the explicit part. Okay, you with me? You with me? So the explicit autobiographical memory says, I launched rockets, but the implicit emotional sensation is like, it felt really fun when I launched the rocket. So that's how they connect, right? There's different pieces of information, but when they connect, then it provides that context, right? Because you can't understand the abstract emotion if you don't know what was happening to help it. And looking at the facts of what happened are kind of bleh, unless you have access to how it was feeling in the process, right? I played a computer game. That's a fact. It's kind of just like whatever. But when you have connection with the emotion, it's, I played a computer game and it was so much fun and it was like captivating and like I couldn't stop, which was kind of addicting. You know what I mean? So that is an example of the relationship between explicit and implicit memories, or how that neural connectivity impacts personal experience. The implicit procedural memories, this is where stuff gets so fascinating. Oh my God, so fascinating. The implicit procedural memory data is all about the unconscious body mind remembering how it moved. And honestly, there's no full way to explain this. There's no full way to explain the in-depth concepts of this, but when you are seeing something on a computer screen and you're navigating it with different clicks and buttons, there's a sensation of consciousness navigating that inner reality of the computer game that is perceived through the computer screen. So even though the body isn't like moving, there's movement in relation to how the conceptualizations of the self are navigating the game. Okay? So like you think of like body movements like, you're playing soccer and you're running and you're kicking the ball and stuff. But if you're playing a computer game, there's not a lot of body movements. Not according to the unconscious body mind. In relation to the unconscious body mind, the body is moving through the computer game. And so if you are a character in a game perceived on a screen, even though your body isn't moving through it, the concept of the self experiencing its self in relation to like you are a character in a game, The unconscious body mind then stores information as if it was that character moving through that game. Isn't that so fascinating? So even though the body isn't like in the computer game moving around, how the computer game is navigated in relation to the character you're playing or the role you're experiencing it from is creating neural wiring in relation to how the body thinks it's moving because it's relating itself with the character that's being played. So interesting, right? That's so cool. So, a child playing a computer game. There's the explicit autobiographical piece of information. It says, I am this person, I am in this place, at this time, playing this computer game. And there's this general sensation of, I'm enjoying it, I like that computer game, a preference. I like playing this computer game. Maybe a conclusion drawn from the experience. I enjoyed playing that computer game. And then there's the implicit emotional and procedural memory data. Emotions have abstract feelings like joy, excitement, ecstasy, boredom, frustration, anger, abstract emotions. And then implicit procedural memories are all about how the body moved through the experience. But even though the body is not physically moving, it is still recording information in relation to how the character that is being played is moving through the game. Isn't that incredible? So if you're in a car driving and you're racing, then how the car is driving and racing is creating neural data in relation to implicit procedural memories because the body is recording how it's moving in relation to the character that it's playing in the game. Isn't that wild? So it's not just how the body moves externally, it's how it understands its movement in relation to a sense of self in any application. And so if you're playing a computer game, then how the character or the role that you're playing, whether it's a person or a car or whatever functionality you're maneuvering the game with, how you're maneuvering the game, how you're moving through the game is impacting unconscious neural wiring in relation to action patterns. It's wild. So there's this explicit and implicit neural data sculpted from an experience of being a child playing a computer game. How that information talks to each other affects navigation and regulation in the unconscious body mind. 1 year ago, I could not remember my childhood at all. 0. I could not look back at experiences, such as being a child playing a computer game, and remember them, explicitly or implicitly. And 2 years ago, there were multiple states of consciousness in here, and all the neural data was encountered independently. So maybe these 3 states of consciousness remember those experiences, but then these 8 states of consciousness have no memory of it whatsoever. Now, the explicit and implicit pieces of memory data are so thoroughly connected that I can remember the autobiographical details of being a child playing specific computer games, and the implicit neural wiring has connected. And this was one of the most astounding things along the healing journey. For example, after an application of about 5 hours of back-to-back marathons as part of my daily practices, I would randomly remember a feeling of moving. So both an emotional memory activation and a procedural memory activation. It was a feeling of moving and all the different things in between and beyond that. A feeling of moving through a particular scene. And then I would go through this process of trying to figure out what that scene connected with explicitly. But it was always after a period of practicing the application of these ideas that I would have all of these breakthroughs. And I would sensationally remember a feeling of moving through a particular scene. And then with a little bit of conscious directing of internal energy, that information was then connected with the explicit autobiographical details. And so my little Kristin really enjoyed playing computer games. Among the infinite activities she enjoyed as a child. And on the healing journey, it was a lot of piecing together stuff. Like I would remember a scene of playing this computer game and moving through this thing. And then gradually that information was connecting with the details of there was this child during this time period playing a computer game in this place. And so explicit and implicit memory data was being connected beyond awareness when applying these ideas. And that impacts navigation and regulation in the unconscious body-mind. And so on the surface, I was focusing on consciousness teaching the brain and body to socially engage with itself with an emphasis on nurturing internal attachments. But beyond awareness, explicit and implicit memory data from decades ago was achieving newfound levels of neural connectivity, which was then covertly affecting navigation and regulation in the unconscious body-mind. How myself was instinctively maneuvering its own existence was changing as neural connectivity expanded while applying these practices. And you might think, as a child playing a video game, how does that affect how you navigate and regulate the unconscious body-mind now? It does. Wildly enough, it does. It all matters. It all counts. It's all connected. It's all connected. It all affects each other beyond awareness, though. That's the key. We can't consciously understand the complexities of the unconscious body-mind to the degree that it's worthy of being explored. There is so much happening. And it's true that how neural connectivity and the content carrying it from being a child playing a computer game, how that information is all connecting within itself does actually affect navigation and regulation in the unconscious body-mind. It's so profound. And so on my healing journey, I was astounded at how the explicit and implicit pieces of information were being connected. Without working with any specific memories or past experiences, the application of these ideas was achieving that anyway. So the explicit and implicit neural data connecting is one of the important benefits of the application of this concept. Thesis number 29 of the Implicit Revelations Case Study. When consciousness teaches the brain and the body to socially engage with itself, the process of healing internal attachments indirectly reconstructs neural wiring from every year of life in relation to every role of the neurobiological social engagement system, including the conscious and unconscious details, or the explicit and implicit pieces of neural wiring. The computer game story was just one of a variety of details that unfolded, but I was noticing explicit and implicit neural data connecting from a variety of life experiences during childhood and adulthood. 1 year ago, I could not consciously remember any of those experiences, and the implicit memory data was operating independently of one another. And so procedural neural wiring from age 10 and procedural neural wiring from age 21 and procedural neural wiring from age 25 and everything in between and beyond was existing and operating without any connection with each other. Zero connections with each other. So the unconscious neural data was existing, but it was operating independently. And the conscious or explicit details of those memories was not accessible at all. Zero ability to remember any of the experiences. And beyond awareness, the action patterns and emotional sensations from every experience were operating independently, which was affecting navigation beyond awareness, far beyond awareness. But now all of it is totally connected. The explicit and implicit memory data knows about each other. And neural wiring is connected from every year of life. So the self who experienced life at age 10, the self who experienced life at age 5, the self who experienced life at age 15, the self who experienced life at age 20, the self who experienced life at age 25, the self who is experiencing life now, and all the aspects of consciousness experiencing all the neural wiring beyond awareness from every year of life, all knows about each other unconsciously, beyond awareness. The neural data knows about each other, so consciousness has a greater capacity to function and flow as a unified sense of self. Consciousness exists and operates independently of brain-body structures. But as the neural wiring integrates or achieves expanded neural connectivity and improved neural content, then experiences of consciousness shift as parts of consciousness encounter healing homecomings. Parts of consciousness have a greater capacity to be with each other and to be more in the present moment, rather than being independent from one each other and maybe reliving past stuff and not totally being in the brand newness of a new moment. In addition, neural wiring in relation to every role within the neurobiological social engagement system expanded its connectivity. And this is especially important because it helps the unconscious body-mind instinctively balance and integrate how it navigates and regulates. For example, all these different roles have unconscious priorities. And so there's the role of rest and restitution and physical well-being, emotional intimacy, emotional well-being, physical intimacy, parent-child bonding, mutual support, cooperation. There's all these different roles and they each have a priority. And how the unconscious body-mind navigates life now depends on the neural content and connectivity in relation with all these different roles of the neurobiological social engagement system. You can explore more about these ideas in earlier thesis statements and analyses in the Implicit Revelations Case Study, expressed and shared through my known documentary series, which is videos, and then also associated text, which is in the video captions and available on the official known documentary series webpage. Without effective connectivity between the various roles of the neurobiological social engagement system, neural data operates independently of one another and does not have the opportunity to collaborate and communicate, which can create some imbalances. For example, someone might be naturally focused on their physical health, but super disconnected from their emotional health, as one of infinite examples. And so how the unconscious body-mind navigates and regulates in relation to all these different unconscious priorities, how to prioritize emotional well-being, how to prioritize physical well-being, how to bring balance to emotional intimacy, where you're maybe able to experience it in a healthy way. You're not super disconnected from it, but you're not obsessed and like all you need is just to be emotionally intimate all the time and that's the only thing that matters to you, etc. The way that all of this stuff is being balanced and instinctively navigated in the unconscious body-mind depends on the quality of the neural content and the expansiveness of the neural connectivity. How all this neural data in the neurobiological social engagement system connects affects how all these roles are going to be able to balance in the unconscious body-mind. And so that's why it's really important for the expansion of neural connectivity. Through the application of my 29th thesis statement, all the different roles in the neurobiological social engagement system instinctively, automatically, unconsciously, or subconsciously, or indirectly, beyond awareness, without intentionally trying to do this. All the different data in relation to all the different roles and all the expanses of the neurobiological social engagement system achieve profound, not just subtle, not just minor, not just kind of, sort of, maybe, profound expanses of neural connectivity. No matter the details, this is the most important thing. Because applying these ideas was able to transform things from the greatest depths of the untransformable. I couldn't remember my entire life a year ago. And 2 years ago, there was so much independent activity in the neurobiological social engagement system that there were over a dozen different people inside of this brain and body, without an ability to create new memories, with a complete mind-body disconnectivity. Profound independent activation of the neurobiological social engagement system just 2 years ago. But through the application of these ideas, there is so much connectivity throughout the neurobiological social engagement system that there is a sense of self here who has connection to every sense of self that's ever been. And all of the roles within the unconscious body-mind are so unified that the unconscious body-mind now has automatic tools to navigate every subconscious and unconscious need. And that's why it's important. There's absolutely nothing wrong with living with multiple states of consciousness. I just want to clarify that. When Kristin was in her healing journey several years ago, she had no intention of becoming one state of consciousness at all. I just want to be very clear about that. And so we can actually bring unity to the unconscious neural wiring of the neurobiological social engagement system to improve navigation and regulation in the unconscious body-mind without necessarily reducing the extent of the states of consciousness experience. So for example, if you're living with adaptable consciousness condition and you have 35 different people or states of consciousness in your brain and your body, and you don't want to get rid of any of them because you love them all because you're all awesome, obviously you're all so awesome. Duh, you're so incredible. Every single one of you is absolutely amazing. These ideas can still be applied because it's helping bring healing to the neural wiring, which will help parts of consciousness be more of who they are. This process doesn't change who you are, it just brings greater healing to the unconscious body-mind so self-essence can be more of its true self. So the reason that this is important, expanding neural connectivity, is so that facts and feelings or explicit and implicit pieces of information can connect. And so neural data from every year of life can connect. And so all these roles in the neurobiological social engagement system can connect because that information is helping you navigate everything. It navigates your feelings. It navigates your thoughts. It navigates your action patterns or how you make decisions. It navigates how you perceive things. It navigates all this subtle, subconscious, sensational stuff. And when there's severe independent activity in the neurobiological social engagement system, then the unconscious body-mind doesn't know how to effectively navigate things like physical well-being, for example, or emotional intimacy, for example. And there could be challenges to connect with emotional intimacy or bring balance to emotional intimacy. Same with physical intimacy. There might be difficulties even connecting with it at all, or there might be such an over-connection that there might be experiences of hypersexualized tendencies, which I also explore in my Implicit Revelations Case Study through a known documentary bonus feature. And I highly recommend checking that out if any of these topics interest you. So regardless of who we are or how we're experiencing life, whether you're experiencing life through one state of consciousness or 50 states of consciousness, these ideas can still be beneficial because they're uplifting the structures of the unconscious body-mind. And when neural data improves or expands its connectivity, then the unconscious body-mind has greater opportunities to provide automated navigation. And so regardless of how life is being experienced or who you are within the experience, there is the neurobiological social engagement system that carries all these different roles with all these different priorities unconsciously, including things like emotional and physical intimacy and well-being, mutual support, cooperation, rest and restitution, how we navigate ourselves and our health and our sense of self and external interactions and relationships and situations. All of that navigation comes from the unconscious body-mind, the majority of it existing and operating beyond awareness. Approximately 99.08% of inner realities unfold beyond awareness. So that's why this stuff is super important to explore. It impacts us in so many ways that we don't necessarily think about on a day-to-day basis. So there's 3 particulars about neural connectivity. How implicit and explicit memory data talks to each other from various experiences throughout life. How neural wiring from every year of life talks to each other. And how neural data throughout all roles of the neurobiological social engagement system talk to each other. And all of these have a great sense of importance within how the unconscious body-mind navigates and regulates its own existence. For example, neural data from age 5 connecting with neural wiring affecting present moment experiences, that connectivity matters as one of infinite examples. One way or one reason that it matters is because having neural wiring connect from age 5 to the present moment experience helps the inner child, the 5-year-old childhood self aspects who experienced original stages of neurodevelopment and now encounter that neural wiring beyond awareness in the unconscious body-mind, those parts of consciousness of the inner child, are then able to see the adult that they grew up to be, providing connection between self aspects, and the adult who is now here to care for them, with distinction between self aspects. That is one of infinite examples about why this matters, why it's important, how it's affecting us. Can childhood self aspects fully see and resonate with and connect with the present self who is now experiencing life? And that depends on neural connectivity. Explicit and implicit neural data connecting helps the self who is here now understand its existence in relation to the sense of self who has been, and connectivity of implicit neural data improves the way that the unconscious body-mind encounters its own emotions and action patterns. So beyond awareness, implicit emotional memory activations are affecting how we feel now. A lot of the feelings we encounter now often don't come from what's actually happening now. Oftentimes, more so of our present moment feelings come from the activation of implicit emotional memories beyond awareness. And you can explore thesis number 17 for further insight about implicit or unconscious memories and the details about how they operate and how understanding them unlocks new healing potentials. Implicit procedural memory activation affects how we maneuver our life, including decision-making tendencies and abilities. Neuroscience discovered that 80% or more of decision-making automatically, unconsciously stems from the activation of this implicit procedural memory data. And so if we open a refrigerator and go to choose a snack, how we base our decision in the present moment more so comes from unconscious memory sculpted during the past than from present moment awareness. As we expand our awareness in the present moment with loving connection with our self aspects, we have more power to override unconscious memory activity and make a brand new choice. But on average, especially without awareness in the present moment of our own selves and making new decisions, without being affected by how decisions have been made up until now.
On an average day-to-day basis, 80% or more
of decision making stems from the activation of implicit procedural memories. And if there's any type of trauma response or prefrontal cortex deactivation, etc., then even more than 80% of decision making can come from that neural wiring. And this can happen during things like dissociative blackouts. And you can find out more about these concepts in other theses analyses and in my Implicit Revelations gift package, which is packed full of the best of my case study work. So be sure to check that out if these topics interest you, especially if you're along a personal healing journey, especially if you're on a healing journey from any type of traumatic stress or dissociation.
Another reason that implicit memories are so important in the unconscious body-mind is that not only are the activations of existing implicit memory data affecting our new experiences, but that is also affecting how new experiences are processed and create new implicit memories, which will affect future experiences. So if in our present moment, the way that we're naturally feeling and the way that we're naturally moving through life is hugely impacted by the activation of existing implicit emotional and procedural memories beyond awareness, new moments are creating new implicit neural data, and this will happen again in the future. How our unconscious body-mind is naturally feeling and moving now creates new neural data, which projects information in the future, which then affects how the unconscious body-mind feels and moves. And so if we're struggling with emotions or action patterns now, and we're not doing something about it consciously, intentionally, mindfully, with awareness, then that will totally, profoundly, expansively affect future experiences. So for example, if you're in a present moment experience and there's activation of implicit emotional memories from past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs, and you're feeling lonely, for example, because loneliness, especially, not necessarily exclusively, but it especially stems from activation of implicit memory data sculpted in relation with the first attachment system. And this actually references my Liberated Consciousness Diagram as well, which you can explore in my book, Liberated Consciousness. And these ideas are explorable through other thesis statements in my Implicit Revelations Case Study. But if you're in a present moment experience and there's deep sensations of loneliness, a big part of that often stems from activation of memory data sculpted in relation to past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs, especially in the first attachment system. If we don't tend to internal attachment needs, especially in the first attachment system, if we're experiencing loneliness, if we don't tend to that in the present moment, then it's going to perpetuate the cultivation of implicit emotional memories so that we continue to feel lonely in future experiences. However, if we recognize loneliness as a clue of consciousness and respond effectively, then we can break the cycle. And our present moment might not be totally transformed, because transformation doesn't ever happen immediately or overnight. Healing is always gradual and never linear. But if we consciously and continuously respond to sensations of loneliness by cultivating a felt sense of attachment need fulfillment, especially in the first attachment system, which especially happens through distinction and connection between self aspects, as the observational self grows attachments with the experiential self and strives to stimulate a felt sense of attachment need fulfillment for those self aspects, then consciously transforming the present experience
will change how new experiences are stimulating implicit memory data so that in the future there won't be the intensity and degree of feeling lonely because the implicit emotional memory data contributing to those automated experiences has been transformed. And I highly encourage you to check out one of my free gifts offered through Kristin's Consciousness Consultancy called Clues of Consciousness from Attachment Systems. It shares an excerpt of part of one of the original drafts of my book, Liberated Consciousness. Since then, things have evolved a lot and grown and expanded a lot. But this was one of many ideas shared in my book. And this was one of the more original drafts of that idea. But my free gift offered through Kristin's Consciousness Consultancy, one of many free gifts, is a booklet called Clues of Consciousness from Attachment Systems. It guides you through all 4 attachment systems in relation to my first thesis statement in my Implicit Revelations Case Study and associated with my Liberated Consciousness Diagram, which is not yet available to the world, but it will be one day at the perfect time. Clues of Consciousness from Attachment Systems, this free booklet guides you through the process of recognizing clues of consciousness from each distinct attachment system when they carry high or low vibrations of love in relation with attachment well-being or attachment need fulfillment from past and present experiences. And so it literally guides you through the entire process of recognizing specific feelings, thoughts, sensations, stuff you might be encountering, and where the activation of that neural data stems from in relation to attachment systems, so then you can tend to specific attachment needs. For example, if there's chronic bouts of anger and rage, that is more likely to come from the second and third attachment systems than the first and the fourth. And once you start to recognize which attachment systems need the most help, then consciousness has a lot more power to step in. And be there for parts of self-essence while transmuting the energetic content and connectivity of neural wiring. As consciousness recognizes clues from attachment systems, parts of self-essence can be there for each other more effectively, and in the process, radically heal, restore, uplift, and empower all foundational structures of the entire unconscious body-mind. So definitely an adventure worth investing in. It creates radical life transformation, impacting all present and potential experiences, while covertly transforming the past. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I'm a little bolder every day. I'm stoked I did not just spill on myself. I'm stoked I did not just spill on myself. Okay, where are we at? Quiet on the set. Okay, so that's the intro. I'd like another way that I love you. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. Okay, this is a little addition. I love you.